Hey everybody, this is Nora, and I have a special guest today. I am joined by Samantha Denz. Is that the right way to pronounce your name, Denz or Dents?
Yes. Yeah,
Not
dense.
Dents, right?
No.
People are always trying to call me Nora Lentz, and it's not Lentz,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Lenz, right? So we have very similar last names. Um, anyway, Samantha's mom, Samantha and her mom are both members apparently of the big group. And her mom had said something in passing about this condition that her daughter's dog had, and that she had fasted her, and there was a very favorable outcome for the dog and for everybody concerned, of course. And so I wanted to talk to Sam about that situation and just get some information, because I know this particular problem that the dog was suffering from is really scary for people. It's really a conundrum for people. And I think Sam was just telling me that she had reached out to me, and I didn't remember that at all. But I think that's what precipitated my actually doing a little research on this condition and talking about it in one of my videos a long time ago. But it could have been somebody else. I don't know. But anyway, it's a very scary condition. And I remember as I was researching it thinking, well, I wonder if there's something different going on here that wouldn't be helped by natural hygiene or fasting or whatever. And
Mm.
so this will vindicate, the idea of removing the cause. Obviously, if the body isn't able to digest food, that's one way that it's going to get the message across, close the jaws. So anyway, we'll start with I'll just ask you to tell us what the diagnosis was, if you got an official diagnosis.
Mhm.
And what's the dog's name, by the way?
Flint.
Flint. And Flint is what kind of breed?
He's a pure golden retriever.
Oh, he's a golden. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so tell us about Flint, first of all, just like what he eats, what if he's been on RMF for a while. So just introduce us to him, first of all.
Okay. Sure. He is the quintessential golden retriever. Just totally happy-go-lucky. He has not been vaccinated, and he was 2 when we started him on RMF. So that was just under 2 years ago now that this whole incident started. So it was right about the time we started him on RMF, and then there was also another incident where he and our other dog actually bashed heads together, and it was right after that he started having trouble opening his mouth. So I
Hmm.
had no idea what was going on, as you can imagine. I thought maybe a chicken bone had gotten lodged in his mouth because, we were new to RMF, or maybe something was knocked off balance from the collision. I just knew that all of a sudden he was having difficulty, with his favorite tennis ball, and how Goldens love tennis balls. So, and then started progressively, it was getting harder for him to eat. And back then, I used to be the kind of person that just kind of hoped things would go away on their own. I've changed a lot, largely due to this circumstance, but yeah, it wasn't going away. It was getting worse. So I realized I have to do something. And I wanted to start with the CT scan just in case there was something lodged in there. So I think I called 10 or 15 places where near the Chicagoland area. So it, they want the vaccines in order to do the scans. So I called around quite a bit, and I was finally referred to um, a dental vet who is more lax on that kind of thing. So they also got us in like the very next day from calling because of the situation. So yeah, even under anesthesia, they could not open his mouth, which I found really bizarre and interesting. Mostly bizarre because that's just it's really bizarre. So yeah,
Yeah,
and they did.
because you always think that they're deliberately clenching their teeth, but they wouldn't have that control if they're knocked out.
Right.
So you think it would open up. So there's something physical going on for sure. It's not just them
Mhm.
clenching their teeth deliberately.
Yeah.
So was anything found in the CT scan?
No, totally normal. And obviously obviously they wanted to do the test for which I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but it's a
Yeah.
$500 test. And I knew, no matter what, I wasn't going to put him on steroids, but
The $500 test?
yes, it was $500.
It's a
So
blood test.
it's
It's
a
a
blood
blood
test.
test.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to get into my personal theories of what I think is really going on, but where they get that kind of information from. But we did the test, so it came back positive. Yeah, I
Came
mean,
back positive for MM. It's
yes.
actually called MMM.
Oh, is it?
Masticatory myositis. And I don't know where they get the third M because there's only two of them in there.
Yeah, that's so funny. My husband was like, "No, it's MMM." I was like, "No, it's masticatory, whatever. There's two
Yeah.
M's." He's like, "No, it's triple M, I think." So that's
There
funny.
might be like a mandibular thing in there or something. So that might be the third M. I don't know. But M and M and M. Anyway, so it's just an antibody test. And what they theorize is that there are these antibodies that are attacking some kind of cell in the tissues of the masticatory muscles
Mhm.
and causing them to not function. So you did that $500 test and he came back positive.
Yeah, pretty high positive, according to them.
Now, how sure can they be that this condition wasn't caused by dislocation of the joint? Do you know how they determine that? Because it can be caused by that also.
I
And
have
it
no,
seems like that there would also be that result of not being able to open it physically while he's under anesthesia. So
right.
there must be a way that they can zero in on the cause being somewhere in the bloodstream as opposed to a dislocation of the joint. Because if this collision happened at a reasonable time before this, jaw locking thing happened, then
Mhm.
it would make sense that maybe his jaw joint was knocked out in the collision.
I mean, there's more to the story. So we did actually get it, start working with a chiropractor as well, because just trying to cover all our bases, and what other option do you have? That's your dog, your pets. Really, I believe are extensions of you, and like children in a lot of ways. And so we did start working with a chiropractor who I was really excited about at first because it was supposedly holistic and integrated medicine, and really just turned out to kind of be actually more so pushy and rude about the situation than the actual vet, who was actually very open-minded. Um, but that's neither here
The
nor there. That was
chiropractor was pushing, what were they pushing?
supplements, mostly supplements and different injections, B12 injections, and really she wanted me to do a specific kind of diet for him. And I obviously I sent her all the RMF information and I explained it to her, and um, wasn't really getting anywhere. But we did see her 4 or 5 times, which is the initial visit was $500, and then it was like 100 something every time. So they're definitely making out, in that industry. But it was sad to see somebody that I was so happy to find somebody that was in that industry, doing something holistic, and then it was pretty disappointing to come to that conclusion. But ultimately, we saw her, like I said, I think 4 or 5 times. She did chiropractic, she did acupuncture, and we did an infrared laser thing once. Didn't really have a good feeling about that, so we didn't do that again. Um, and she ended up bringing me in. It was like a 2-hour drive to her location, and she brought me in for one last visit, one last adjustment, and then told me that she couldn't work with me anymore because I was killing my dog, and she couldn't be held liable. And yeah, pretty disappointing situation. And then
Oh,
asked me to pay for that last visit, and I was like, I'm not, I'm not. Are you serious? I'm not gonna, pay for this visit.
really
But
too bad that you didn't go with your gut and fire her before she fired you.
yeah, that's
She
so funny
deserved
because
to be
I had the
fired.
feeling to do that just a couple days before that happened. I was like, I really, I mean, I instantly didn't really have a good feeling, but I wanted him to be better, of course. So, and I knew it wasn't going to harm him to have, the adjustments and things like that. So,
And now throughout these adjustments, if you could just describe what they did and if you saw any improvement in the symptom.
um, she mostly just held his head and just kind of wiggled and then like cracked a little bit. I think I only heard one crack. I know that's not really an indication if you hear something, but I only heard one crack the whole time, and it was when she first saw him or worked with him. Um, and then she did some work with his spine where she kind of pushed down in certain areas. The acupuncture was, just needles along the spine, and then in certain other areas, like down by one of his paws, by one of his ears up here, or wherever they are. Um, and then the infrared, he wore goggles, which was really cute. And they just took like this machine and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like
Was
almost like
any was any of this uncomfortable for the dog? Did he
he
seem
he's pretty chill. It's hard to like rile him up, unless there's another male dog, which he's very aggressive then. But other than that, I mean, like our 2-year-old at the time, she just lays all over him and crawls all over him, and he's totally fine with that. So he seemed okay. I think overall he was pretty stressed out about the situation in general. As you can imagine, not being able to open his mouth and pretty difficult, not being able to play with his tennis balls. It was a very, very traumatic situation for everybody involved. Um, yeah.
And did you see any improvement in the symptom during this time?
No, it wasn't until the improvement started literally within a week after I stopped working with her. So I don't know if that was energetic or what, but there was no improvement whatsoever. There was only um, getting worse. And once I first started working with her, as soon as I left the dental vet, I decided, okay, I'm not putting him on drugs, so I'm just going all in. I am just going to fast him 2 weeks. And I did that, and he started to get dehydrated. He really wasn't peeing.
Uh-huh.
And I started using a syringe to give him water. And after, I think I made it 10 days before starting to give him watermelon juice. I don't know if you know anything about like structured water, but I knew he needed like some nutrients, and I know structured water, obviously nature makes it and it's perfect. So I started giving him watermelon juice a lot. That's all he had. And that was,
Now, acquaint me with the timeline here. He had the CAT scan, and then how much time went by before you started with the chiropractor? And was he eating anything during all that time?
he was not eating. Let's see, he was hardly, like, barely eating, he was losing the ability to eat. And that's when we took him to, this was 2 years ago. So I did try to find some dates going through some old emails. Um, so I know that we took him to the vet on the 21st of February, and I found the chiropractor the very next day. So,
Mhm.
and then I think I saw her maybe a couple days after that when she came out. He wasn't eating, so I started the fast right also after seeing the vet is when I started the fast. And she was like not on board with that at all, but obviously it's not her choice. And then the watermelon juice after the 10 days, and I did the watermelon juice for 3 weeks, and that's all he had for 3 weeks. Um, and and then that's when we stopped working with the chiropractor, and that's when he started showing improvement. And then I have an email, it must have been, yeah, 3 weeks, because I had an email on um like about a little bit over 1 month later, and it was a follow-up from the dental vet saying that he can finally lap up water a little bit and he could lick his nose. So that was huge. And yeah, so that's about a month of that. um yeah, that makes sense with the fasting for 10 days, and then it was like 3 weeks of the watermelon juice, and then yeah, he started to get a little bit better once. So then I started blending up meat for him, like, in a really, really just mush. And it's it's really heartbreaking to go back and remember that, how hard he worked to eat the meat.
He
It's
had an appetite during this time.
Yeah, he was he was very hungry.
Huh.
It's not an easy process. So.
Did he get skinny? I mean, that's like 4 or 5
He was
days of fluids,
yeah,
right?
yeah, he
And
was very
he was
yeah,
skinny, and he did seem hungry.
he was very hungry. Yeah, and he lost all of the musculature in his face because of the disease, and or disease, whatever you want to call it. And I can definitely see how people think it's extreme, but I think it's more extreme to put him on a drug for the rest of his life, and this disease be looming over our shoulders. It's not fixing the root, and I truly, 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 genuinely believe that our body has the ability to heal itself if we allow it to. Yeah, so definitely believed in that.
Well, even more than that, I mean, we know that anything that any medical diagnosis that ends in ISIS or itis, it's just inflammation. Inflammation is something the body does normally. It's not fighting anything. It's not fighting an invader. So fundamentally, you have to go in. If you want to treat this disease, the so-called disease, the way they wanted to, you have to accept that something attacked him. Well, if something attacked him, it was probably your other dog crashing into him, because other than that, there's nothing external that attacked him. This was all about his body. Now, at what point how long had he been on RMF when this happened?
We just started. It was maybe
Just started
a
like
couple weeks.
days or weeks. Okay. Well, you know, inflammation can happen anywhere. And when you clean up your body and you start putting only the right stuff in, and all of that stored garbage starts getting liberated back into the bloodstream for elimination, it can get deposited in various places on the body. And the body just brings heat and fluids there to try and speed things up and to dilute the stuff that's deposited there. It's all about the body healing itself. And what you did is you cooperated with it. You said, okay, you want to do this, body? I understand. I'm going to let you do it. And that's beautiful. That's what everybody should do. And it's really unfortunate that you went to this chiropractor, this crazy chiropractor, because if you hadn't, or if you'd gone to her and she sort of tipped her hand and you said, no, I don't really want any part of that or whatever, then you could go back to her and say, look what I did. I did this on my own. Do you know any other dog owners whose dogs have been diagnosed with MMM that have gotten zero drugs, zero intervention, that, the disease was resolved in? No, they're all on drugs for the rest of their lives, trying to keep that inflammation from returning. So, it's too bad you can't go back and say, I told you so, but even if the situation were, such that you could go back and say, I didn't have any intervention and I still managed to resolve this, they'd still find a reason to not accept it. They'd still go, oh, well, sometimes we have spontaneous remission, and, they have their scapegoats and their excuses.
Well, she was very adamant that he was going to die. I mean, she told me to my face that I was killing him and that he was going to die. So I did send an email after he got better and let her know that he was completely better. And the same with the dental vet, yeah, because first of all, it's completely unprofessional. I mean, to tell somebody, you could at least have some kind of tact. She was very rude about it, and it was a very difficult time as it was. I mean, I don't support other people's decisions all the time, but I would never treat them that way. And not that I want to, just put this all on her, but it was harmful the way that she treated me, and it was
What
hurtful.
a scary thing to say to somebody. What a scary thing to hear. Your dog's going to die if you continue, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and on top of my family and friends telling, not on board either, it was really, which kind of brings me to, because I'm really grateful for this conversation and you reaching out, because it really allowed me to reflect back on the situation. And because the last 2 years since then have been absolutely crazy for me. It's really been a spiritual awakening. And when I really was reflecting on this, I'm thinking, okay, I know that our pets really are like energetic extensions of us in a lot of ways. And I'm thinking we disown a lot of our parts onto them in a lot of ways. So I'm like, okay, so Flint, what does Flint represent to me? And it's really my inner child, that carefree, like childlike part of me. And I'm seeing now how that disease, his inability to open his mouth really mirrored my inability to speak up for myself and my inner child. And it really led me on to a journey of figuring out how to do that, which has been a really intense journey, but it's taught me a lot about the things that we can't see, and especially when it comes to pets. And I think there's a lot more going on that we can't see, than what we can see.
And I think these experiences really add to your maturity and your chops, so to speak, to handle situations like that in the future, because it's only been through many times of having to go up against vets and find out that I should have gone with my gut, but I didn't, and there was a bad outcome. Every time that happens, if you have that happen a few times, then you finally go, I'm going to listen to my gut next time. And
Mhm.
this empowers you to do that when you do the right thing and you have a favorable outcome like this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Um,
So
yeah,
he was able to start chewing again after how much time?
it was a slow progression. I again went back to my
Weeks.
emails, and when I sent those, it was May. It was like mid, and it was no, it was the end of May that I sent emails saying he's completely better. And it was the beginning of May when I was out in the backyard with them, and I remember he brought me the tennis ball for the first time, and I just cried for, I don't know, 30 minutes. I was just so relieved, and just that confirmation, that it was the right thing. And yeah, gonna make me tear up again because it was incredible.
That's so cool. So it started like in mid-February and completely resolved by the first part of May.
Yeah,
Wow. So
yeah,
a couple of months instead of a lifetime on steroids, and that would ruin his vital organs, but we're not going to worry about the vital organs.
right. Yeah, and he was only 2, so it's not even like, I mean, but it was hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because it's not easy. And I hope that somebody else can, you know at least hear the story and know that they can do it, because they can, but they should know that it's not easy. I mean, it's easier when someone else has done it and okay, I know this person did it and I see proof, but it was not an easy process, especially having nobody, well, besides you. I mean, obviously I looked back on your videos about inflammation and everything, and it just made so much sense. It's just when you hear truth, it in your gut. And I knew it made sense, and I knew it was the right thing to do. But yeah, it was a process.
Yeah, I think it's not so much like intelligence that makes people recognize truth, it's courage. I think it's emotional, because I think it's fear that causes people to just go with the conventional ways of doing things, because that seems to be the safe way. And people who want the safe way are afraid. They're just afraid. And so you just have to, I think that's why when I heard your mom, I mean, when I read your mom's comment, I was like, you have a very brave and smart daughter there. And your mom said she listened to you. I'm like, really? Wow, great.
Yeah.
Somebody's listening.
Yeah, I admire you very much as soon as I found you and I saw what you were doing, because it's not easy to be somebody that's, speaking the truth against such a big industry, and just really in general. Nobody wants to hear it because they don't want to make the changes. And I won't say nobody, but it's a difficult position. So you're very brave and courageous, and you were the leader for me in that gave me the courage to trust in myself to do that. I wouldn't have known, that was the right thing to do. And then afterwards, I purchased from you TC fries. You probably don't remember, but
Oh yeah,
um,
the life science
yeah,
course.
yeah, I devoured that information. I was like, this is like, oh my God, it's like the Holy Grail. It makes so much sense. And
Good.
yeah, I try to share that with so many people. It's a lot of information, obviously, but it's really worth it. If anybody is really looking for like just the essence of it, of health,
Right.
it's great.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's just
thank you.
so rare to find people that are open to it. And I, for so long, I just just kept preaching and getting flamed and, piled on and all of that. So it's just so great to be able to talk to people and know that somebody's listening. And I guess that's what social media can do for us. I'm just so glad that we connected 2 years ago and that I was able to be helpful, even though I don't remember now that conversation. But anyway, so I'm just so glad that everything worked out. And has he been able to put weight back on? Is he normal looking now?
His body is normal, but his face, he's not regained the muscle in his face, and I don't think he's ever going to.
So his face looks really slim.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look like deformed or anything. I can send a picture or something at some point if you want, but it's clearly sunken in, his cheekbones and
Cheeks are sunken in.
face, yeah, it's didn't grow back.
And but functionally everything works fine. He can chew bones.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100% back to normal.
Really, and playful and
Yeah,
carefree.
his regular stuff, yeah, catching rabbits, all of that.
Catching rabbits.
He catches a lot of rabbits. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's so good. So, okay, well, I just wanted to, inform the community about this success story. And I was just hoping that it will give people courage who are dealing with similar situations and even this one. So, thank you so much for being willing to do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would love to see a picture of Flint. And maybe we'll upload it as the thumbnail for this video when I put it on YouTube. So
okay, yeah, I'll send one over. I'm not on social media. I'm not on Facebook anymore. But yeah, I'll send that over to your email. And yeah, this is kind of an odd request, but I actually just finished a book, and I'm literally last night finished editing it. And I know it's a poetry book, so it's kind of, not like a mainstream type of book. So if there's anybody watching that knows any publishers or agents or anything like that, I mean, I'm looking to obviously publish it. So
you're looking to publish your book of poetry?
yes. So if anyone knows any, I haven't really started looking yet, but for an agent or publisher or anything, just
literary resources.
yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, there's a couple of Facebook, you're not on Facebook, but there's a couple of Facebook groups that are pretty helpful about that. But all of that, Facebook, it's all about get your book on Amazon and let Amazon take 70% of the profits. And, they're all about the conventional ways of doing things on Facebook.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not so much, so obviously, but
me neither.
yeah. So thank you so much.
Congrats on your book. And thank you so much for doing this. I'm just going to go ahead and stop the recording now.
Okay.
And so thank you, Samantha.